and I think he was surprised that he was getting it, but also he was surprised that he was able to receive it. That was what I saw in his eyes. And then I wrote a song, and without exaggeration, that song just popped up like that in 5 minutes, the whole thing. It's called Boy Alone.
I was born a boy alone, being good and fearing others. I was born a boy alone,
but the title could also have been Band of Brothers, because it's about the boy alone, like the lone wolf, and it's about the end of the lone wolf, like through men's circles, like to find each other, support each other. So that song is very much about that.
Why, that's just, when you said that, the ability to receive, it gave me chills.
And now that I'm at peace, my lonely hour.
Hello, world. It's me, Dennis, and we are in search of the new compassionate male. I am the producer of this podcast, and I'm here with the founder, Clay Boykin. Hello, Clay.
Hey, Dennis, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully.
Well, that's good. Julien Oomen is with us today, and Julien is based in Amsterdam. How you doing, Julien?
I'm good, thank you.
How did you get, what would have gotten you to Amsterdam? What was this impetus to get you into this Dutch realm?
Well, I've been living here now for 20 years. I am Dutch, to start off. Yes. I'm half Dutch, half French. Grew up in Indonesia. I was made quite close to Karambu Ringera because my parents made me in Tanzania, close to Kenya. we just talked about Karambu Ringera, hence the remark.
Our hero.
So for me, it's been from puberty onwards, it's been Holland. I'm a Dutchie, half French, half Dutch.
You know, one of the things that Clay and I were talking about before we started, and Clay, I apologize for jumping in here, but
go for it, Dennis. I'll get my 2 cents worth.
Your journey into men's work, and your journey into exploring, because what we as old white men are understanding, that we lived and benefited from this patriarchal system that is no longer working. We have to create something else. So in order to do it, we've seen that we have to work on ourselves. We have to work on ourselves first and really get there in order to be able to be a contributor. And so I'd like to know from your journey, we'd like to know something of your journey into this work, your journey of evolution as a genetic male in this process and in the culture and in the work. So go for it. You have the next 24 hours to continue.
Well, first of all, I'm sure that you did not just benefit from it, you probably also suffered from it.
Well put. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Julien.
Well, that's a wrap.
Yes.
But for me, I'm facilitating a monthly men's circle now, but men's work has only been in my life for some 4 years or something, and I was in a weekend where we were doing a lot of ceremonies and things, and it was men only, and that was definitely a trigger for me, like a pull factor, for me to go there. So we were with a group of men, like 15, and then the facilitator at the time, we were standing by a river somewhere, and he said, when men can rest with men, the loved ones of those men can rest with these men. And it was so powerful. So that was it. That was where my journey started.
Let me ask you, what got you to go to that event in the first place?
It was at that time it was a plant medicine event, and that was something that I wanted to go to. Um, and yes, the men factor was a pull. At the moment, I didn't know why, but when I was there, I knew why.
I grew up not trusting men, and I got to a place where I realized that for me to grow, I was going to have to get over that. And the only way I could think of doing it is, if I have this feeling, I bet other men have got this feeling. So that's how I started my men's circle. And it was to learn how to connect with other men and to get over that. So was any of that in the attraction for you to to join into that?
Yeah, so for me, there was no clear intention. There was not a goal that I was striving for. There was a curiosity, and there was just a hunch that this would be, well, what turned out to be transformational.
Yeah. Well, and so after that, you immediately started your own men's group, or what happened next?
Yeah, well, so that weekend, what happened is that I didn't even bring my own guitar, but somebody did. And when yeah, in the middle of the night, we were in the ceremony, and I took the guitar, I played a couple of songs, poured my heart out, and the facilitator, he remembered that moment, and half a year later, I was meeting a good friend of mine who is now my co-facilitator for the men's circle, and I was meeting this friend of mine at the supermarket where you can get a cheap breakfast deal, super cute, nice thing. And so I sat down, and the reason that he wanted to talk to me, this friend, was because he wanted to talk about this facilitator of that particular weekend, because he was curious about that guy, because we're also on this path. And I went there, and my friend didn't show up, so I was having breakfast alone. And in that moment, the guy from that weekend, the facilitator from that men's group weekend, he called me. And I was about to discuss, him. So it was like this serendipitous moment, because I hadn't been in touch with him for half a year. And I was having my breakfast alone, being fine. Okay, my friend didn't come because he was sick. And then suddenly he calls. So he tells me, hey, wouldn't you like to come and support my work musically? Of course, first for a tryout thing, and it was a weekend it was a group of men, and then immediately, that first experience, I found out that when I tune in, because of course I wondered, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to play? I made a list of songs, my songs, a Lennon song, lots of things, and I also wrote 2 songs, because I was tuning in, I was getting inspired.
In my center, I'm alive. I will burn on both sides. My relentless strength is mine.
At the end of that weekend, all the guys, they were asking about those 2 songs. So then I found out from the very beginning that it's real, that, like, setting an intention musically and then just tapping into that and releasing that, it's real, it happens there. And it's been happening ever since. So that's why, like, before, sometimes I wrote like 3 or 4 songs a year, but lately, the past 4 or 5 years, it's been like over 50 songs every year. It just keeps pouring out.
I haven't heard all of them, but what I have heard is remarkable. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
It really is. And so when did you get into music originally?
Oh, nice question. I'm not from a musical family, but oh man, yeah, I'm one of those guys who in early puberty, I would on the same day I would buy End of the Road of Boyz II Men and Nevermind of Nirvana, like, and then later on got into classical music and heavy metal. It was any kind of music, almost every kind of music. And I think I started with the flute.
Oh wow!
And then and then I moved on. Like I did have some music lessons, saxophone and bass guitar when I was 12, 13. But then I just picked up a guitar, started learning some chords from friends, started playing in bands, and I've been playing in bands for, I was playing in bands for a long time. And now recently, it's more solo work and born in a very specific context now, the music.
Sing a song for those whose laughter's unleashed beyond control. A song for those who dance right onto the winding road. It's an open road.
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Well, so can you describe how your men's group works? Because I want to compare notes. I've got a way that we do it, and everybody that I talk with, every fellow who leads a men's group or a men's circle has a little bit different twist and so forth. And I'd love to learn how you do yours.
Yeah, well, the summary would be sheer simplicity. There's just really not that much to it. We get together with a group of men, and we always start with a little body scan or something, and then we go into the sharing circle. And there will always be maybe like one or two new guys.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of things we say. We have a talking stick, but what we also say is that we encourage the just holding space and being with whatever is with whatever is shared, because of course you may feel a super beautiful inspiration to comment or to ask beautiful questions, and then the invitation is to just be with that and to feel wow, this is, I want to give support, I want to share recognition or whatever, but just stay with it. And even like it even happens sometimes that when I mention this at the beginning before the sharing, then one of the guys will go like, oh man, I actually really wanted to ask some questions and hear some support, and then he does his sharing, and and then the other guys share, and before the break I just check in with him. Are you okay? Like, do you still feel like you need support, like the specific questions you had? And he's like, no, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because it's all happening.
Isn't it? And before you go on, because I want to just from a technical standpoint, because here we are in January of 2021, and are you still virtual? Did you move into the virtual realm, into the Zoom world 4 years? Because that's where we are. We have moved. We were physical, and it was a very, very tactile, very important, very man-to-man. And then we had to go into the Zoom world, which, right, Clay, it changed the dynamics.
It couldn't help but change the dynamics.
So what has been your evolution, and where is Amsterdam at this particular time?
Yeah, so in the live version of the circle, usually after the break, we have physical exercises, whether they are fun or challenging, or they're about trust or whatever, or just playful, or and it could be tied to a theme, and then we do something for integration, or like an insight dialogue by Gregory Kramer, something like that. And then we finish off with a end sharing. So,
brothers, let us stand together, vibing high and rooting low. Brothers, let us rest together. There's nowhere we need to go.
So that's the physical. And then in March, with the first lockdown, we moved to Zoom. And we ourselves, so we, my friend and I, it's lovely to prepare a men's circle together, just that's awesome to do it together. So me and him, we were quite skeptical. Like, are we going to do this like on Zoom? and we did it, and it was beautiful. We hardly, I'm not going to exaggerate, but we hardly missed the live setting. It was beautiful. And there's something to these breakout rooms, like a one-on-one breakout room in Zoom. It's pretty intimate, and you see
Yes,
yourself, and it's I don't know, it works.
it does. It really does. So tell me about the fellow that, how would you describe the fellow that joins your circle?
Yeah. I'm happy to say that that really has a diversity in there, in so many different reasons. There'll be guys who just want to share, and after the first sharing, they're fine. They just needed to put it out there.
Yeah,
that's it. And then there are guys who are really searching for something, and then within those group of men, they will probably find their father represented in the group of men, and then they're good. There was also a homosexual man who was battling his fear of men, and he's working his way through there, and like it's very successful at it. And so there's all like what makes me personally really happy, and this is very much linked to my purpose. I'm currently working. This is one of the places I work for, A Beautiful Mess. And this is next to the music I do. I work a lot with newcomers, so people who came to Holland as a refugee.
Yes.
Oh, and, that's right.
And what I wanted to share with you is that I've also had one guy from Pakistan coming to the men's circle, and in the circles like spiritual circles I'm in, they are pretty white, and even like when I do like the circle in Dutch, or when I do the circle in English, it's already such a huge difference to be with only Dutch guys, or to be also with a guy from Chile and a guy from Germany and a guy from Norway, because in every language you think differently.
Yes.
It just, that's already a big diversity, even if you just have one like German guy, And this guy came from Pakistan, and he shared with me, man, I'm a little bit confused being here in the West, because being from Pakistan, like traditionally, like spirituality, it's my birthright. And then what happened, and these are his words, Islam crushed that the way it was before. And now I've come to the West. I had to flee my situation. I came to the West, and everybody here is into spirituality. And then when I go to the therapist, and then he says, when I go to the therapist, I get this like bipolar diagnosis and blah, blah, blah. Bipolar I was going for.
Yeah.
And then he says, but I'm curious about this men's circle you run. So can I come? And this is like a super shy guy, afraid of men, afraid of women. And he came to the circle, and he told me like, hey, okay, I'm here, but I'm not gonna share anything. And I was like, it's fine, because I knew what would happen. Like, hearts open, his heart open. So he shared like monumental sharing, and then something clicks within me, because somehow, how to put that into words? Like I'm just always, that's what I want, to just to be diversifying my men's circle, of course, but for him to find a place there, and for the other guys to hear him. That's
a safe space.
A
safe space.
And then I just click with all the little choices I made in life, for me to end up there. Because maybe one of your questions would be like, hey, don't you just want to be a musician, like music, like just to go for that? But there are other things pulling at me as well. Whether we have a certain structure, We do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do. But we often move away from the program, of course. Like we go with what happens. But the thing is that every now and then we have a circle without any theme. But we do have a theme because we just enjoy so much to prepare the circle, to just take a walk and then between the two of us, like, okay, what's alive in you right now? What can we profit from? What's the topic that we need to dive into ourselves? And then we have all sorts of ideas for exercises and integration, little exercises, etc. But we clearly communicate to the men, like, you are welcome with whatever is alive in you right now. That's always clear. And it can totally happen that we move away from the theme altogether, like totally, because there's a different thread going on. It just
I so
happens.
love how you describe that. I
Isn't
really
it?
do. We talk about our circle being a contemplative circle, and the fellas that are attracted to it, it sounds like they're similar to the fellows that come to yours. They're already in their heart, and they're searching. These other forms of men's groups, and this very big generalization, but there's other men's groups that will take you out to help break through that outer shell to get you into your heart and then do work. But there's guys that are in their hearts already and they're stuck, like you were saying. They're exploring and they're trying to figure out something, and they're not going to be attracted to the other types of men's groups. They need a safe space where they can be there, not judged. They can share, like you're saying, and be nurtured by other men. So
Yeah.
it sounds very, very similar.
Yes, and what I like a lot, what I like a lot about the place where I go to play my music, because I'm often invited by someone else who runs men's groups and year trainings for men. His approach is, yes, safety, of course, and to first really install that safety and have that um,
A foundation.
yes. But then uh, from his he's a very playful, adventurous guy, and he will then start challenging, sometimes in a fun way, sometimes in a loving way, and sometimes just like bum, like in your face, like even relentless, but it still feels safe.
Yeah.
I mean, he has that talent.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
huge.
And there's a difference between that approach, for example, and our own men's circle. Our own men's circle, it's also shorter. It's one evening. It's a couple of hours. So it's about holding space, being together, resting with each other regarding a certain theme to exchange to. And then, of course, there will be a break time, so there can also be chit chat or some challenges or some exchange. But to have a full weekend or even a year training with 7 weekends, that allows for a bit more, of course. So in one of the first time I went to the year training as a musician, the men had already done 3 weekends, and every weekend has its own archetype. And I came in the 4th weekend, and it was the weekend of the jester. That was the archetype, the jester. So speaking your truth. And of course, that he related that to music. So well, amongst other things. So he asked me to come and verbalize certain things and to just be there and spontaneously write, even because in a weekend like that, there are songs popping up literally. Yeah, so of course, if you have that much time to build the foundations of a group, for a group of men, like 7 weekends, to feel safe, to start challenging each other, to really cut the crap, cut the bullshit, but in a loving way.
Thank you. I'm curious about so many things, Julian. This is amazing to experience this. I want to know over these past 4 years a couple of things. I would like to know from a macro level, do you see of the people that are coming into the group, are you seeing evolution that you can extrapolate to the culture that something is going on, something is softening in the culture, that we're becoming more multicultural, more accepting, more, even though we know that there will be hard points and soft points as we're going on. Are you getting a sense of something that is going on by observing this control group?
One lies in fatherhood, and I'm saying that because like our societies are, they've been built um, mainly by absent fathers, like whether they were physically absent or
Or
emotionally
emotionally?
absent,
Exactly.
and also in many cases it was not even their fault. In most cases it was not even their fault.
Here is a child that longs for the sun. Here is a child that's thirsty. Here is a child to hold in your arms, to respect, to welcome and set free. This child will be safe in its father's arms. This child will grow strong in its father's arms.
So a while ago I had a talk with my father, who was, well, it's fair to say, a bit of a workaholic, and always traveling and not there a lot. So let's say I was physically safe. And mind you, I have a lot of men in the group who were beaten into the hospital by their own father. So I'm the lucky one. But my father was not there so much, like emotionally, not much going on between us. So yeah, in my own way, an absent father to a certain extent. And then at a certain moment, I had a talk with him, and we discussed his father. And he said, "Well, let me put it plain and simple. I mean, my father never even like made any remark whatsoever about anything like in my direction, like be it negative or positive. Never." You know, so how is he supposed to learn like how to be an attentive dad, or and oh, I felt so if we speak of compassion, of course, then the compassion starts blurting out, and I was already ahead of that. I mean, I was already like actively reinventing this relationship with my father. Before that, I started a memory challenge. It was this book where we would like write up a memory that we have of the other, and then give the book to the other, and he would write a memory. And I
Oh,
did so
wow.
because like being in a conversation with him, it doesn't always necessarily flow. But then if you sit down and write up, like I noticed how when I had written something and he would react to that, I noticed how he would like really reflect on it, and yeah, like other things would pop up, and he would write up beautiful sharings. And so as for your question, a bit elaborate, but fatherhood, I'm noticing in this, as you called it, like control group, in this,
Yeah.
I'm noticing, as for the fathers, there's many other things, but as for the fathers, that they are more and more in a soft way, I mean, committed to being
This child will be safe in its father's arms. This child will grow strong in its father's arms.
yeah, to being
But
there.
you say they, but there's also a we in it, isn't there? Because you're a father.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
and your daughter, and so that you get an opportunity now to carry generationally on and to show up for your daughter in a way that you might not have been shown up for.
Yes, and in me there is also still all these things that we are all processing through, like guilt and shame and all these things. So I'm also still messing up as a father. You know, I can be, for example, my thing is that I can be triggered on a very personal level by my daughter. She will do something, and I'll be like, oh, you know, like uh, be really hurt. You know, instead of just being practical in the moment and knowing that she, you know, I'm her dad. You know, everything's fine. So that's my story. But it's just amazing and wonderful to see and to know that things are changing. I mean, as for fatherhood and men really coming alive and being prepared to really get to know their own shadow, so as to allow for their children to live with the authenticity that they were born with, you know. And that's for me, it's something I'm learning and something that I'm inspired by. It's something I love that it's there, and I'm still learning because I'm me myself. I'm projecting things, you know, on my daughter and being hurt by little whatever things, you know. But it's amazing. It's happening.
Did you have? I
Go ahead.
apologize.
No,
Clay,
please.
God, I will dominate this conversation. But do you see the refugees being accepted into Dutch society? We're having that in the United States right now. One of our original situations was in dealing with slavery and dealing with the original sin that we have and what we're trying to have reconciliation with, and how do we deal with diversity, how do we deal with this, how is that happening in Amsterdam from your experience, and how is that healing happening?
Well,
Not.
you know, like first of all, I am part of a very tiny little um, network organization that's pioneering. So um, so me in my world around me, um, I think we're doing pretty good, but that doesn't say anything about Amsterdam. So to as for where we are as an organization, so right now I'm sitting at a beautiful mess. I showed you. It's a social enterprise, and it's part of a refugee company. We are an organization that offers learn work trajectories to newcomers. And I'm also part of an organization that does art in asylum centers, so whether it's music or whatever. And as for your question and diversity and how we are doing, I remember in the talk you had with Karamu Ringera, she mentioned the decolonizing of the mind.
Yes.
And so we, for example, here we just had this year we had a training on nonviolent communication, NVC, and it was only 2 days. I mean, and it's something that you need like a couple of years to really embody, but we had 2 days of it. And on the third day that we still want to organize, we want to speak of power structures. And with power structures, I mean the fact that when I'm working with somebody that came here as a refugee, then there's a lot of factors that will make me more powerful, right? Like I speak Dutch fluently. I'm socialized into this society. And on the third day of our NVC training, we want to look at these power structures. So the fact that when I'm speaking, for example, as a coach, with one of the trainees, and with trainees I mean one of the people that came here as a refugee, and we are offering these trajectories to get socialized and to regain their self-confidence and hopefully get a job, because what we go for is social and economic independence. There are these power structures, and it's so important to be aware of that, to decolonize the mind, and from both sides, right? From both sides, to also realize that you spoke of slavery, you know, the how do I put this, like the receiving society, that received the colonization or slavery, etc., something happened there in their minds as well, right? Like
Yes.
Sure.
being perceived as such, and then at a certain moment to start behaving from that position. So it's you have to work on both these sides.
Both.
Yeah, yeah. And in general, as for your question in Amsterdam, yeah, there's so many different answers to that. Because
Yes.
in a way we're nowhere, and in a way
We
we're
are
doing pretty
in
good.
works in progress. It is a truly open-ended question. Now, Clay, please continue.
No, I forgot what I was going to say. That never happens to us, does it, Dennis?
It happens all the time. Thank goodness, because this is what I love about Julien. What have you learned about? Can you see a difference if you were to take that book and that memory book and hand it back to Julien from 4 years ago? What would you know about Julien today that you didn't know about Julien 4 years ago in the arc, the track of what you're learning about yourself?
One thing is I can be truly sustainably happy for long periods and really tap into the magic of life, of nature, um, and and I'm experiencing connection differently because the way I experience connection is more complete now that I also have a place, for example, the men's circle, where I'm with men only, and that just has something so wholesome to it. And I often, of course, women say like, "Oh, I would love to be there, to see it." And me, I would love for them to be there, and I would love to hang up a camera for them to see what actually happens. And with permission, sometimes I've also shared a little bit with permission. Like for example, I would tell the girlfriend of one of the guys, like, "Hey, you know what? If you ask me, the only thing he needs is to share. That's it. He just needs to put it out. He doesn't need anything else. He just shared and he felt great. Like these little simple things." But the thing is that to be there with a group of men only, I think you mentioned it, Clay, in the video when you also discussed Brene Brown. You mentioned something about that, and just that to hold space with men only. It will, the energy will change if there's a woman present. And it's even a couple of weeks ago I spoke to a Belgian woman with Afro roots, and she was telling me that she was once in Ibiza with a spiritual community, and it was a pretty white spiritual community. She was the only black woman, and every now and then, or it happened like once or twice, that one of the ladies would come, like, touch her hair and go like, "Oh, I would love to have your hair." And she was getting fed up, to be like the exotic approach. And then the one time when she mentioned something about white privilege, those people there turned out to be more like a spiritual bypass than actual spirituality, because they couldn't deal with it. And what I was going for is that she then created her own women's group, but then only with women with Afro background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then what she tells me is that it was just so, it felt so, certain codes, certain communications, like the safety, and it was just so wonderful for her, such a big relaxation. And it's the same with the men's group. So that's the interesting thing for me always, with diversity, because sometimes you want to put everybody together, mix them all up, and yes, magic will happen. But if you do the opposite, and just put the birds of a flock, together, also magic will happen.
You're so right. There's so much that we men can learn by having these circles with only men. In the almost 9 years that we've been doing a weekly circle, on 2 occasions have I had a woman in, and one was our assistant minister at church, and she had something to share one night, and I could tell then the dynamic changed. It's just her, and she's a wonderful person. There, but the energy changed. The only other person I've allowed into the circle was Karambu, and that was a magic evening. That was really magic. So there's the work that we do and the trust that we build, and I really agree. It's got to be done with other men. We get 20 guys in our circle. We'll have 12 to 30. Typically, we've got over 1,000 life years of experience right there. And your life experience, Dennis's, mine, there's things there that we can learn. And sometimes it's just the energy of being with another man in a type environment.
Yeah, my biggest inspiration with the men's circle is to tap into each other's wisdom and to bring that out. That's it.
Yeah.
What I wanted to add to the previous points, it's not necessarily like only the magic is not only in the men's groups. Like what we actually aiming for, what we've already discussed with some women that are running a women's circle. For example, like first you have a topic, for example, shame, and the men's group comes together about the topic shame. And the women's group comes together on the topic shame. They have their separate circles. And then after that, you bring them together, the 2 circles.
I love that. I so love that. And you're right.
I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, well, I can identify that because of the work I was looking for. Well, so there's a point where we men need to go out. What's the next thing? Where do I evolve our circle? And I ran across and met at the Parliament of the World's Religions the people who founded Gender Equity and Reconciliation International. And they are about the deep healing between women and men. And it's finding that safe, sacred space where we both can go deep into ourselves, share things that we've never brought to the surface, and to do it in a safe environment so we recognize that both, certainly women and men, are wounded by the patriarchy. That in itself is a learning experience for a lot of women. Oh, I always say, well, I'm a privileged white Western male. I've got everything going for me. Well, I'm wounded too. And it's not about comparing the wounds. It's using that common ground that we're both wounded. That's
this to me is where Brene Brown really hits home when she says that if you're willing to move into that vulnerability, that's where the growth is.
Yes.
Also, just in a love relationship, like I tried something out yesterday evening with my woman. Because I was messing up a little bit earlier this week due to some, the stress that builds up with the lockdown and being at home too much, etc. And then I shared something vulnerable, with her, like about what I thought that, like something about how I think that she perceives me, with regard to something specific, which was for me like vulnerable and painful, and that's Then you share it. All is fine, there's a healing moment, and it's not so difficult and complicated, it's not the huge challenge that you thought it was, but to make that step to put it out there and share something about your fears,
that says a lot about y'all's relationship, to be able to go there, to have the courage to show up with your heart open like that, as Brene says. It's wonderful.
It
Yeah.
is. I was having the same thing with my wife, Melissa. We were having this same thing. How do we reconnect when I am on this really powerful career path and how do we stay connected and keep that connection going? And there is no manual. There's no particular way, but it is just the hard work of being open and vulnerable together and being willing to go through that space and know that there's maybe a lot of shaking going on, but we're
Yeah.
gonna stay together and nobody's gonna leave the room.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, of course, the paradox of being a facilitator, because you're in it because you need it yourself.
No, no,
Because
no,
we
not
What's
me.
your name?
we
I wasn't
need the
talking about you.
gifts. No. We seek this out because we need the gifts.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
why we say we're in search of the new compassionate male.
Yes, because this is for us.
Yeah.
We're in this in search of. We have not. One of the things that so attracted me to Clay, you in the beginning, was that you said this was that we were works in progress.
Mhm.
Want with an aspirational goal. We were not going to tell anyone, oh, we've arrived at this place, and so now you come and let us teach you how to be compassionate. And it isn't. We are as curious and as open, and want our hearts as open and our minds as open and our souls as open as we possibly can, so we can learn.
Yes. Yeah. Last Monday, I had the last men's circle, and my co-facilitator at the end of the circle, he mentioned that, well, I mean, it's a continuous ride, it's not like there's some sort of moment when you're finished. It's just gonna keep on going like this. And one of the men in the circle, a little bit before that, was sharing, like, how do I explain this? Like, his eyes were bright, and you saw that his mind was all over the place, and his heart as well. And he was like trying to explain over the course of years about his development, like how he started understanding certain things, but certain things were still like beyond him, and that he realized that those things were still beyond him. And then I was looking at him with huge sense of compassion, not necessarily for him, but for the human being. I was looking at him,
Yes.
and I was like, wow, look at this creature, being so aware and so mindful also of the things that he's not capable of yet, and to reflect on that, and also be curious about how that works, that he can or cannot understand it or grasp it. I mean, come on. It's just so beautiful, and also like so absolutely out of your reach anyway, like. And that's, yeah, it's just the way he was trying to convey the message. It just made it so clear to me that we are like a pretty special species.
Boy, what a gift you gave him by
What?
creating that space for him to be able to go there.
Ik heb een anker uitgegooid in het huis waar mijn hart woont. Bij mijn lichaam.
So okay, so you grew up in playing guitar, and you're inspired by the men's work that you're doing,
Mhm.
and you've got some albums, and I think you've got a new album out. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so for this new album, I saved up those songs that the songs that touch a lot on this on men's work. So there's 11 songs, and 8 of them are very much about men's work, and 6 of those songs originated from these weekends and ceremonies and trainings and workshops with men where I was present to support musically. And some of these songs, they really popped up just out of nowhere. For example, like, of course, a lot of these songs are also about me, like possibly autobiographical.
Mhm.
um, but there's also one song, for example, that's not necessarily about me. But during one of the weekends, between breakfast and brushing my teeth, I peered out of a window and I saw a spontaneous constellation that created itself around one guy. So there was one guy standing in the middle and I think 6 guys standing around him. And I was looking, and on his face, the guy in the middle, I saw a combination of surprise and yeah, he was just so touched. And what I saw, that he was receiving it. He was receiving the spontaneous support that he was getting, and I think he was surprised that he was getting it, but also he was surprised that he was able to receive it. That was what I saw in his eyes. And then I wrote a song, and without exaggeration, that song just popped up like that in 5 minutes, the whole thing. It's called Boy Alone.
I was born a boy alone, being good and fearing others. I was born a boy alone, but I found
But the title could also have been Band of Brothers, because it's about the boy alone, like the lone wolf,
a lonely wolf.
and it's about the end of the lone wolf, you know, like through men's circles, like to find each other, support each other. So that song is very much about that.
Well, that's just, when you said that, the ability to receive, it gave me chills.
And now that I'm at peace, my lonely hours light up.
That's where
a
it's
big
at.
one, eh?
Yeah. If we get to a place where we're sharing to give, to support another person, but it's almost, just speaking about my own experience, my ability to let my guard down and to receive, to trust and receive, was almost a bigger challenge.
Mm.
So that's beautiful. What else is on your latest album?
Yeah, there's a song about the kind of like the definitions about manhood, where what I tried to go for in that song is to touch more like on the alchemy beyond the concepts of the masculine and the feminine. You know, they're just something ungraspable. That's just energy. You know? So there's a song on that. There's a song on.
What is the name of that song?
It's called Both Sides.
I will burn on both sides. I will build the fire high. In my shadow.
Both sides. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, when you were describing that, a word that's come into my vocabulary the past couple of years working with the gender equity folks that you just used was alchemy.
Yeah.
The right space, the right energy. There's no way to write that down. But there's an alchemy. You can't not be changed by it. And to be able to capture that in music is beautiful.
And it helps to bypass like the binary concepts of the masculine, the feminine. You know, I'm sometimes a little bit tired by those terms.
Absolutely. And we get so confused. We get so confused in talking about it. And I watch people just miss each other. Best intentions, but they can't communicate. That's nice. How, where would people find your music?
So I have my website, obviously, which is julienoomen.com.
And that's Julien, and that's OOMEN. So it's
my first name, like in the language that we're currently speaking in, I would call myself Julien, but it's not with an A-N, it's E-N, because it's Julien, my French mom. So Julien, and then Oomen is with OOMEN.com. And and it's 2021, yeah. So it's also on Spotify and Deezer and all these weird companies.
That's great.
Anyway.
That's great. Like this podcast will be out everywhere as well.
I was born a boy alone, being good and fearing others. I was born a boy alone, but I found a band of brothers. I grew up a lonely wolf until I found all the others. I was born boy alone, but I found a band of brothers. And now that I'm at peace, my lonely hours light up like a flame. And now that we're at peace, we'll share this flame.